This morning, the instant you woke up, something switched on. Before you checked your phone, before you remembered your own name, there was already a feeling. A sense of being someone, of being here. A quiet, constant signal underneath everything that says, I exist. You've had it your whole life. You assume everyone has it. But here's the unsettling part. We have almost no idea whether the dog at your feet has it, or the crow outside, or the dolphin in the deep. And the one famous test we built to find out turns out to answer a much smaller question than we thought. That test is the mirror. In 1970, a psychologist named Gordon Gallup designed something simple. He put a mark, a spot of dye, on an animal in a place it couldn't see without a mirror. Then he gave it a mirror. The logic was clean. If the animal touches the mark on its own body, it must understand that the reflection is not a stranger. It's me. For decades, only a tiny handful of species passed. Great apes, dolphins, Asian elephants, one bird, the magpie, and astonishingly, recently, a small reef fish called the cleaner wrasse. That's almost the entire list. Nearly every other animal on Earth fails. They see the reflection and treat it as another creature, to flirt with or threaten or ignore. And when an animal does pass, it's eerie to watch. First, it makes strange, repetitive movements in front of the glass, tilting its head, raising a limb, testing whether the thing in the mirror copies it exactly. Then something clicks. The magpies in the original study had a small colored sticker placed on the throat, somewhere they could only ever see in a reflection. The moment they caught sight of it, they began scratching at their own throats, trying to scrape it off. They had understood that the bird in the mirror was not a rival. It was them. And even calling the rest passes is generous. Within those species, often only a minority of individuals ever succeed. Barely a third of the elephants tested, less than half the chimps. Gallup himself, the man who built the test, still doubts that anything beyond the great apes truly passes it at all. And then there's the fish, which broke the whole thing open. When researchers put a mark on the throat of a cleaner wrasse, a mark it could only see in a mirror, the fish swam down and scraped its throat against the sand to remove it. By the logic of the test, a fish the size of your finger had just done what almost no animal can. Scientists are still arguing about it. Some say it's real self-recognition. Others say the fish simply saw what looked like a parasite on its body and did what cleaner wrasse always do. And that argument exposes the crack running through the entire test. So that settles it, right? A few brilliant species know themselves, and the rest are just biological machines with no one home. Except the test has a problem, a big one. The mirror test is built for animals like us, animals that live through their eyes. But a dog doesn't experience the world primarily by sight. A dog lives in a universe of smell so rich we can't even imagine it. Asking a dog to recognize itself in a mirror is like judging your intelligence by a test written in a language you've never heard. So a researcher named Alexandra Horowitz built a different mirror, an olfactory one. She presented dogs with canisters of their own scent, and then canisters of their scent that had been secretly altered. And the dogs lingered, investigating longer, when their own smell had been changed, as if to say, that's me, but something's different. Years earlier, another scientist had noticed the same thing in the snow. Dogs sniff other dogs' marks with great interest, but barely pause at their own. They already know which one is theirs. It may be a sense of mindness, not quite a sense of I-ness, but it means the mirror test wasn't measuring whether animals have a self. It was only measuring whether they have our kind of self, found our way. And here's where the real question opens up beneath all of it. Even passing the mirror test only proves one narrow thing, that an animal recognizes its own body, and a self, it turns out, isn't one single thing. There are layers to it, knowing where your body ends and the world begins, recognizing your own reflection, knowing your own thoughts, catching yourself in the act of thinking. And underneath all of those, the deepest layer, the bare feeling of being someone at all. The mirror test only ever touches one of the lower rungs of that ladder. A chimpanzee wiping a mark off its forehead has shown you it knows that's its face. It has not shown you whether, somewhere behind that face, there's a felt sense of being someone. And that deeper question runs straight into a wall that may be permanent. You cannot get inside another mind. You can map every neuron in a crow's brain, watch every signal fire, and still never know what it feels like from the inside to be that crow. The philosopher Thomas Nagel made this point with a bat. You could learn everything science can ever know about a bat, and you still wouldn't know what it's like to be one, hanging in the dark, seeing the world in echoes. The inside of another creature's experience is the one country your science can never visit. The strange thing is, you can't actually prove it about other people either. You assume the person next to you has an inner life, a sense of existing just like yours. But you can't feel it. You infer it, because they're like you. With an animal, the inference just gets harder the less like us they are. This is one of the oldest walls in all of philosophy. You can describe a creature's behavior forever, map every reaction, and still never once cross over into what it actually feels. So what's the honest answer? We don't fully know, and we may never know with certainty. But the weight of the evidence keeps tilting one way. Animals plan for futures they can't yet see. Elephants return to the bones of their dead and turn them over gently with their trunks, lingering in a way that looks unmistakably like grief. Crows gather around their fallen in something close to a funeral. They recognize themselves by sight or by smell, and they seem to know when they don't know something. Put a monkey in front of a test that's too hard to call, and it will often decline to answer rather than guess, as if it can feel the edge of its own knowledge. The brain machinery that produces conscious experience in us is there in some form across an enormous range of species. In 2012, a group of leading neuroscientists put their names to a public declaration stating exactly that. The brain structures that generate conscious experience are not unique to human beings, and a great many animals, mammals, birds, even octopuses possess them too. The old assumption that the rich inner light is ours alone is getting harder and harder to defend. So look down at the dog asleep at your feet. It will never pass the mirror you'd hand it, but it may know itself perfectly well by a sense you abandoned long ago. It may carry its own quiet signal of being here, of existing, in a form you will never be able to feel from the inside. We built a test to ask whether animals know they exist, and the deepest thing it ever revealed wasn't about them. It was how little we can truly prove about any inner life at all, except maybe our own.